Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'll show you how to take the body measurement. To measure the neck, you have your measuring tape running along the neck, laying your measuring tape between the break point of the neck and the shoulder point, and having your measuring tape form in an inverted teardrop and at the center front point here, and record your measurements accordingly. Right. Next, we need to use a string to tie around the waist to identify the position of your waist. Having it snugly tied on the natural waist level, making sure that the tape is running parallel to the ground and it's not slanted. With this, we can start measuring the bust. You have one of your index finger between the body and the measuring tape, and adjust your measuring tape, making sure that the measuring tape is parallel to the waist level and the ground. And you record your measurements accordingly. Next, we're going to measure the waist. With this tape running along the waist, we have our measuring tape laid circumference along the string, and once again having your index finger between your body and the measuring tape, and record your measurements accordingly, making sure that your measuring tape is parallel to the ground as well. Next, we're going to measure the hips. The hip is the widest part from the waist. Bring your measuring tape around the widest part of your hip, making sure that it's parallel to the ground and parallel to the waist level as well. And having your index finger between the measuring tape and your body, position it snugly at the widest part of the hip. And you can record your measurements accordingly. Now I'm going to explain to you how to record the measurements of the back. We'll start from the shoulder length. The position of the shoulder length is from the HPS. HPS is once again the break point of the neck to the shoulder. And with a sticky tape, you can tape it to identify your HPS. And the shoulder point here. This can help you to identify the position as you measure.
You can bring that up.
So you can measure from the HPS to the shoulder point. That's your shoulder length measurement. Right? Next, we'll measure the shoulder to shoulder measurement. Once again, you use your little sticky tape, eyeball yourself the position of your shoulder point from here to here. Bring a measuring tape across your back and you record your shoulder point, shoulder to shoulder measurement. We're going to measure across back. To position across back, you can use your eyeball to position across back from this point. Use your eyes to see the break point of your underarm here. From this point up to the shoulder, you eyeball it, half of it. That's your shoulder, your across back position from here. And you can use one of these tapes to help you to identify. Again, this is the break point of your arm. From this point, half, you can eyeball it half. And a cross back is from this point to this point. Having your measuring tape laid across, and record your measurement accordingly from here to here. Now, we want to position our center back length. To identify the center back length, we have our waist position here, and the center back length is from here to here. To identify the position of your center back, you have your clients bring your chin down to your collarbone, and you can feel there's a backbone here, and you can stick a tape here so that you can see clearly the position where you're going to measure from here down all the way to the center of the waist. Having one of this tape here to eyeball the position, that's your center back. And from this tape, we're going to measure from this point down all the way to your waist position. That's your center back length. Now, we're going to measure our high point shoulder to waist. From high point shoulder all the way to your waist level, bring your measuring tape down, and that's where your high point shoulder to waist measurement is. Next, we're going to measure our shoulder point to back waist at center back. Now, we're going to measure our shoulder point to our center back waist. Bring your measuring tape from this point diagonally across to the center back, and record your measurement accordingly. Now we're going to measure the front. To capture the measurements on the front, again, we need to identify the center front chest. The front chest is from here to here. To get the position, as you can see, the break point of the arm and the bodies, you eyeball it, half of it, from shoulder to the armpit here. You eyeball half of it, you have a tape so that you can see clearly. Use your eyes to, again, from the shoulder point to the break point here, half of your position, half of it, and you place your tape here, sticky tape here. And we're going to bring the measuring tape across from this point to this point. That's your front chest measurement. Next, we're going to measure the center front length. The center front length is from this point to the center front. To capture the point here, between the collarbone all the way to the center at the waist level. You eyeball it perpendicular down on the waist level, and bring a measuring tape down to the waist level. That's where your center front length measurement is. Next, we're going to measure from high point shoulder to waist. To identify the high point shoulder, again, it's the break point of your neck and the shoulder. You can have one of this tape and position it here to position your high point shoulder. From this point, from your high point shoulder all the way to your waist, that's your high point shoulder to waist. From here all the way down, that crosses your bust point. That's your high point shoulder to waist. Next, we'll measure from shoulder point to front waist at center front. It's from shoulder point to your center front diagonally. This is our shoulder point. You bring the measuring tape across diagonally to your center front. That's your shoulder point to front waist. Next, we're going to measure our bust point, HPS, high point shoulder, all the way to the bust point. Our bust point position is the highest point of the client's bust. You have these 2 points here. To measure your bust height, we need to measure from our high point shoulder all the way to your bust point. From high point shoulder all the way to your bust point. That's your bust height. HPS to bust point. Next, we're going to measure our bust point distance. To measure the bust point distance is from the highest point to the highest point. And you record your measurements accordingly. Now we're going to move on to the sleeve. To measure the length of the sleeve from the shoulder point all the way to your wrist. That's your sleeve length. For the armhole, you bring your measuring tape to your arm, bring it up. And record your measurement accordingly. Making sure that the measuring tape is not too tight. Next, we're going to measure the bicep. The bicep is between the elbow and the armhole. To record the bicep, bring your measuring tape around the bicep area and measuring between the elbow and the armhole, and record your measurements accordingly. Next, we're going to measure the elbow. You have your client gently bend the elbow and measure it, the circumference of your elbow, and record your measurements accordingly. Next, we got our cuff measurement. Cuff measurement is measured around the wrist. To measure the sleeve opening, you have your clients close the fist and bring your measuring tape around her fist, and making sure that the sleeve opening can go through her fist. And that will be your sleeve opening, which is the widest part. Hi, welcome back. Now we're going to measure the pants. We measure the pants length from the waist level all the way to your desired length. To measure the crotch depth, you need to use the set square. This is your set square. With the set square, you place it through your crotch, and from the waist level to this crotch level here, using a measuring tape, measure from the waist level all the way down here. To measure the inseam length, you use your measuring tape and you bring it to your center front. And from the center front all the way through the crotch up to your center back waist. And that will be your crotch length. When measuring the crotch length, make sure that there's enough slack so that it's not too tight. Next, we're going to measure the waist to hip. The waist to hip measurement is, you can use your tape to position it from the waist down to the widest part. With this measurement, you bring it to the center back as well. From the waist, center of the waist, and you can mark the center. Turn to the front. From the waist down That's the center. Bringing this measurement to your center front as well. With these points, you can run your measuring tape across, around your hip, making sure that it's parallel to your waist and the ground, and adjust accordingly. Making sure that it's parallel, and record your measurement accordingly. Alright? We'll measure the waist to knees. The knee position would be, this is the knee. It's the break point where you bend your knees. This is your knee level. So if you can use this tape to identify the knee point. To measure the waist to knee, once again from the waist all the way to your knees. You record the measurement accordingly. Next, we're going to measure the inseam length. The inseam length is measured from the crotch down to the desired length. To measure the inseam length, we bring the measuring tape through the crotch, bring it down to your desired length. That's the inseam length. Alright? Next, we're going to measure a round thigh. To measure your thigh, a round thigh, you bring the measuring tape around about 1 inch below your crotch, having your one index finger between the measuring tape and the body. You record your measurement accordingly. Next, we have a round knees. A round knee would be the circumference of your knee ball. Again, you bring the measuring tape around your knee, leaving your index finger between your body and the measuring tape, and record the measurements accordingly. Next will be the pants leg opening. When we're having the pants leg opening measurement, make sure that the pants leg opening allows the wearer to slip off the heels. So you may want to have your clients lift up the heels and bring a measuring tape around the heel area with one index finger between the body and the measuring tape again, making sure that there's enough room for your client to slip through, up and out. With this will be your leg opening measurement, being able to comfortably slip through the heels. Alright, so you record that measurement accordingly. Thank you very much for watching.